Good evening, everyone. I'll call this meeting of the Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee meeting to order. Time is 7:03 p.m. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first order, approve the minutes. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes, and do you have any comments or corrections? No, I'll entertain. Okay, motion by Ed to accept.
I second.
Second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
I will abstain. I wasn't there, present
Okay.
at the meeting.
Thank you. As noted in the minutes, Joanne Brinker had to resign from the committee, so we're short a member. I was thinking that maybe it'd be a good idea to have someone from the Recreation Commission attend these meetings, because it's an important part of this process. What do you think of that idea, or do you have somebody else in mind that you think would be?
That works for me.
Yeah, there should be somebody.
Because we got ag, and we got the land trust, and the planning board, and the historical commission, and
I think that sounds like a very
Okay.
reasonable idea, and now
Okay.
that committee's been recently reconstituted, I
Michelle, do you know the
think it's been
status of that?
is it reconstituted, revived, or resurrected, or one of the
Back
three.
again.
It's back in existence in any case, so maybe we could latch onto that enthusiasm that goes with their new rejuvenation.
Do they have a chairman yet? Do they have a chairman?
No.
Okay. I'll send them a memo, I guess, and ask if they want to appoint somebody.
Yeah, I will give you their emails.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, so I'll reach out to them, see whether we can get a representative from that committee. It's gonna be tough because they're just starting up.
Yeah.
And ask somebody to be on two committees is maybe a big ask, but let's see if they want to. Okay, the second item on the agenda is a goals exercise that Danny's going to lead us through. So, Danny, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. So last meeting, we went through all of the actions from the previous plan. So there's some goals and objectives in that plan. They might be similar to what we come up with for this plan, but what I like to do with committees is just start off with some general questions about, what you think about open space, and specifically open space, in your town, and any concerns you have or anything that you'd like to promote more. That way we can put that sort of in our vision and our goals. So I've got 3 questions here, just very generally. I was thinking we could go around the table and just give your answer to these questions. You don't need to agree with what everyone says. Honestly, it's kind of better if not, because then we have a couple of different themes that we can go with. But let's start off with the first question. So what do you think of when you consider open space and recreation? What sort of falls into those categories, when you see those words?
All right, I'll bite the apple first. With regards to recreation, I kind of have a negative thought, if you will, because I look at the no-fun zone out here, which has been that way for an extended period of time. And I have to confess that I'm a little disappointed in the Board of Selectmen and the town fathers specifically in taking ownership in terms of trying to do something with that. The reliance on public charity, if you will, and hats off to the Women's Club in terms of their attempt to collect funds. I think it's a municipal responsibility, and they have turned a deaf ear. In addition to which, I'm going to stay with the sad thought. Picked up this lovely document, a walking tour of historic Dudley Hill. It may have some connection to this. References made in here is walking along the narrow sidewalk, which is the sidewalk in front of the cemetery, which has at either end these mini Jersey barriers in this hideous orange color telling you not to use the sidewalk. And that, again, is something that's been in existence. Now, we've got this thing, walking tour, Dudley, to historic Dudley Hill, and to have those things there is an abomination. That's the only word I can think of. Why these things linger, Why they persist, why they continue, why they go on as long as they have, I don't know. And I think that somewhere, somehow, maybe out of this committee or one of the other committees in town, the sense of urgency should be conveyed to the people who make some of these decisions, and some of these things should be prioritized. The playground is going to be on the town warrant, as I understand it, but they're still waiting for a white knight with a big check. That's the nasty part. The nice thing, if you will, I like is, there's a number of, if you go through town, there are a number of signs. Just down the road here, there's an area that's identified as conservation land. I forget the actual title. And I'm thinking of the one that's going out towards Dudley Oxford Road. There's a space there as well. And there's actually a stand of some sort with some brochures, if you will. And there, people have created parking spaces along the side of the road. The others, with the exception of the one on Healy Road and the rail trail, some of the others, there are signs there, but there's no parking. How do you get from that road, if you will, which is West Main, going down towards the Yummy's location? You don't dare park your vehicle on that road. And I wouldn't advise anyone to walk up to that space to try and access it. That would be as close to suicidal as you're probably going to get. How did we plan for that? Was the thought that it would just be nice to have a sign there and people would know that it was there? Or did we think that folks would actually have some access to it?
I can answer that.
Yes.
That's all Dudley Land Trust
Right.
property, so it
And
has nothing.
hats off to them. It's a wonderful thing they've done.
So it's nothing to do with the town. The town doesn't have any ownership of those properties whatsoever. The, if you're going up Tufts Hill, the sign on the right-hand side, it's a conservation area, but there's no trails or anything in there, so there's
Okay.
really no need for parking at this point. It's on the plan.
All right.
On the right-hand side, Wheelock Woods, there is a road at the sign that goes down. There's a whole parking area down there.
Okay.
Healy Road does, like you said, has parking. We're working on trying to get more parking up off of Dudley Oxford Road. It's just a matter of getting some money so we can grade it out and put some more parking in there. But again, that's all land trust properties.
Well, no, and a wonderful thing as it is, too.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if somebody driving by said, oh, gee.
Yeah, I'd like to. go in
What
there.
is there? You know, I think I'll stop my car and get out there. Well, there's some of those locations, you take your life in your hands
Yeah,
doing so.
Totally agree.
The parking lot on your property on West Main Street, I guess, by the Wheelock Woods,
Yes,
is difficult to see the sign,
yeah, it is.
and it's a little hazardous
It's a
making that
dangerous place. In fact,
entrance.
if you're leaving it, we put a sign up that says, beware when you're
Right.
coming out. And it's best to take a right instead of a left to go up the hill.
Right.
We understand. We're trying to work on those things.
Right.
Um,
So, but a better sign might help, because
Sure.
if you're coming down.
A bigger sign so you
Trying
can
to
see it.
find it,
Yeah,
you're not really paying attention to the driving as much as looking for the sign.
understood.
Yeah.
Well, I think what we got is, after the fact, constructions,
Yes. Oh,
locations.
Yeah,
They were never planned.
a work in progress.
Never planned.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we adapt the best we can? And some of them, the Dudley Oxford Road one, people tuck along, but there aren't a lot of people that go there.
No,
That's
exactly, yeah.
The saving grace of that is maybe 2 cars.
Right.
And if you were real worried, you could kind of cut up on the next street and just
Sure.
park over there and walk over. But you need to know that. But what I want to see is planning to go forward so that we can actually say, this is what we want, and this is an area we want it in, or that lends itself, either way. But something that actually gets done by design at the beginning, if possible. Not a make-do later on. Because right now, unless you're a local, and even a lot of the locals don't know about some of these places.
Oh,
where you
absolutely.
can-
Yeah.
We can go and walk and hike and whatever. So we need more things that we can get out there.
Well, for the land trust, we do.
Yeah, exactly. And saying, here they are. And
Well, to that point, we need, if in fact you've generated some interest that people want to start, visiting some of these properties, we do need some infrastructure there.
Oh, yeah.
For that, because you don't want too many cars parking on Dudley Oxford Road. That's not as bad as this is, if you will, in terms of West Main, but there's still a lot of traffic, and much of them is not looking for pedestrians. They're
Sure.
just barreling along, trying to get to work or get from work. So it's some way to accommodate that kind of activity, or
And
make
when
it
we get to
available, make it really available, if you will.
When we get to the village cemetery, there is no parking.
Right.
And I don't know, if you ever had to inter somebody there nowadays,
Yeah.
I don't know what you do.
Well, there is no sidewalk.
There's no sidewalk, but I think in about a 2-year span, we're hoping that that's kind of been handled with the sidewalk issue coming from Shepherd Hill up to Dudley Common. And they'll start making some adjustments for those kinds of things. But there are a lot of other areas where you just take your chances, you know?
I don't know, open space and recreation, I don't think that should be equated to take your chance.
No.
No, it's not,
No,
you
I
know, it's
mean,
not a
right
Las
now,
Vegas
that's what we
game
got.
here. you know.
Right. I think we should be planning.
Yes, we should, and maybe this is the forum for which we, you know, start doing some of that. I've got to throw one more thing in, and then I'll shut up for a while. We have a number of scenic roads in town. I would like us to put signs up there, that's, you know, Healy Road, scenic road, so people, I don't think people know. If you ask 10 people in town, you know, give me a name of a scenic road, I don't know what you'd get for an answer. You might get Madison Avenue or Pennsylvania Avenue or something like that, Beacon Street, but I don't know if you're gonna get Healy Road. And maybe look to increase the number of scenic roads in town too. That gives us some way of protecting or having some limited oversight for
But
those.
that's a whole process you have to go through
It is.
to get that done.
Right.
Well, there's a town meeting vote to add a
Okay.
new scenic road.
Okay, so it's easy as that?
And we've
Yes.
done it in the last
We've done
few
it.
years.
It's that, you know,
Yeah.
we're not creating something out of whole cloth here. This has been done in the past.
I've
It
put
hasn't
them-
been done recently, though.
I put them up on the planning board
Maybe
website,
4 or 5
so you
years
can
ago.
see what
4 or 5
what they
years
are
ago.
Okay,
And there is a map on the,
on the web.
on the website.
Yeah.
All right. Very quiet.
Some of the scenic roads is also not only to alert people that you're in a nice place, hopefully they knew it.
yeah.
And they go, yes, usually they're just flying.
Duh.
But also to add some protection
Right.
for that area.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
And that's the
That's the
biggie,
biggest
the
thing,
big
right.
thing. People don't go cutting trees down.
Walls.
Don't start us on the trees.
Okay, all right. Yeah. No, excellent point. Thank you very much for that.
I'll go next. So, my interpretation of open space is, it could be passive, like hiking, or not used at all, just forest that's there to provide, you know, greenery and whatnot. Recreation, I think, is more active, so I'm looking at like the town beach or the playgrounds that are in town, which are extremely necessary, but along with open space is necessary too.
I guess I'll go next. What I consider open space is along the lines of what he said, like the open forests around here that we have a lot of, and also the open pastures from the old farms, to maintain that aspect of it. And for recreation, I consider like the town beach, but like with the town beach, unless you know exactly where it is, you have no clue, because people will drive down by Mason Road and go, okay, where is it? Because they expect the parking lot to be right next to the beach. And you can't access it from Lakeside Ave, I think it is, because that's all private property.
Lakeview, yeah.
Or Lakeview
Yep.
Ave. So, I mean, we'd have to get some better signage or something that says, you know, you have to park here and walk down the path. Now, I mean, walking down the path can be a little scary too, depending on what time of day it is, you know, I mean, but I think there should be something a little bit more with the beach. And like there's another little park, like on Pine Street.
Right, little basketball court.
Yeah, nobody knows that that's a town park.
There's no
There's no
signage.
sign, and the tenants from across the street, they all park there. I know they were told at one point that they weren't supposed to. And I think there was a sign at one point, but there's nothing there now, because I go past there all the time. And again, unless you know that there's a basketball court up there, and like really look to see the posts, you would never guess that there's a court back there,
Agreed.
you know, and,
Yeah,
That's
we're caught
pretty
there where
much-
some things were created after the fact, and the locals know about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes the locals are only 3 blocks
Right,
away.
right around there,
Yeah.
yeah.
but
And-
there's been a lot of houses that have gone up for sale in that area too, so there's a lot of newer people that have moved in. So, I mean,
Yeah,
unless,
because you say, oh, you live in Jericho,
yeah,
and they'll go,
Where?
what?
yeah,
No, I live on Pine Street.
yeah,
Yeah, you live in Jericho.
yeah, they don't know that that was once called Jericho.
Right, and that, actually, that little park, I think, was or is named for Twadzik, Nellie Twadzik,
See,
the
I didn't even know
ball
that.
player.
Again, there
I-
should be a sign.
Well,
Yeah.
I think there was a movement to get the sign,
Mhm.
then it didn't follow through. So I think a lot of that is catch-up, you know, let's figure out, we'll catch up with that problem
Mhm.
and fix it.
And like the playgrounds up at the school up there too. I'm sure a lot of people don't know that that's access for town residents. They probably just think that it's for the kids from the
Right.
school.
I've got to touch upon that just a bit. I'm looking at a recent issue of the Webster Times. I brought the whole thing with me because I'm not very good with scissors. Friday, September 30th, school committee considers property use issues, and this is the town of Webster. And their concern is the property in terms of the fields or the facilities at the schools and the use of them by residents other than those that are associated with the school district or the school as a body. And I think that's a little presumptuous of us to think that those school playgrounds are available to Dudley citizens, because they're really not. They're Dudley Charlton School District property,
Yep.
as are the fields at the Shepherd Hill. And although those of us in Dudley may feel that, you know, we have some right and should have some access, the people on the other side of the fence, those folks in Charlton who are also footing the bill to support and maintain those properties, may not feel quite so amenable to our use of those. And they're getting into a whole issue, and this is again, page 1, above the fold, so apparently the Webster Times saw some priority here, getting into the weeds in terms of putting up signage, restricting usage. I honestly, again, I'm getting back to the idea that recreation is a municipal responsibility. It's not for us to say, oh, Nichols College has tennis courts, happy day, we have recreation.
Yeah.
Yeah, they,
If Joe Smith has a swimming pool in his backyard, hey, we have a swimming pool, we have recreation. It doesn't work.
No.
It's the town's responsibility, and the eyesore over here is my interpretation of the town not taking responsibility. And I admit, you know, a great idea in terms of the signage. Where is the town on that? I've been to a number of selectmen meetings, and I don't have ever heard, I don't recall any mention, Michelle is here, she's been to all of them, of putting signs up for example, that Pine Street facility.
There was a point where the children of Nellie Swatsick wanted to put a rock there. And they were trying to find a rock, specific rock, to have a plaque on there. And they never found a rock.
Okay.
You know, I don't even know if it was never dedicated to her. It was just.
I have plenty of rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to
Yeah,
go
no
far to find it.
shortage.
But again, I think we're coming, excuse me.
Play ball.
Yeah.
That's the way Shields Packaging used to be. They went down there looking for a rock down there. They couldn't find a rock. They were gonna go down to Connecticut, someplace in Connecticut. They couldn't find it.
Again, I'm coming back to a point that I've already
Reporting
beat.
rocks.
Yeah, I'm beating the earth pretty hard on this one, is it should be the town's responsibility.
It
And I'm
should.
waiting for somebody, a relative, to do that. Where is the town on this? You know, where is the Board of Selectmen? Where are committees like this at the newly formed Recreation Committee? The initiative should come from some one of those 3 bodies. My feeling, personal feeling.
Michelle, did you want to say something?
No, I just, regarding the playground, as you know, there was a Warren article on there.
Right.
I'm really not sure, they were kind of hesitant to put it on. It might open a large can of worms, but
It's
it's
long overdue.
long overdue. It is well-used playground.
It was,
It was.
it was.
But you're right about this, the playgrounds at the schools. I mean, the schools are in session, you can't use the playgrounds while the schools are in session. After hours or weekends, I used to bring my kids there, but
Right?
it's still, as I see it, is private property. It's property that belongs to the school committee, the school.
And I think what's driving this is liability concerns.
Sure.
Somebody's injured,
Yep.
and they're injured up on Mason, in back of Mason Road School,
Yep.
they will sue, I assume, Dudley Charlton Regional School.
Yeah, that's who
As
owns it.
opposed to the town of Dudley.
Yep.
So they have every right to be concerned in terms of, I mean, the town of Webster has indicated its concern through their school committee, but I think the local school committee in this town and in Charlton would have every right to be concerned.
Yeah.
And again, what has the town provided?
Any other comments to add to this section, or?
I guess the only thing I would add is maybe some long-distance kind of hiking trail system through the town,
Yeah.
where you could connect some of the existing conservation areas, make it so that it's possible to hike, a couple of miles through town. The town is very scenic, has a lot of great landscapes, so it's very amenable to bicycling, for example. But the town doesn't really advertise that at all. But it has some very nice roads to go biking on.
And
So-
also to put markers or signs or something that says where the conservation land ends. Because the back of my property abuts some conservation land. And we get a lot of people that cut through that think that they're still on it. And, I mean, that comes on to me if they get hurt on my property.
Well, there
And
is
not
a,
only that, most people are fine, but there are a few that, they have the trail bars or whatever, they just toss their stuff.
Yeah.
And then as I'm walking through, I have to pick it up, or if they're going through my field, I get it caught in the cutter bar, because I've had stuff like that I've caught, and it creates a problem with that. For the most part, they're okay, but if we could get like something back there, because there are signs back there now that say no ATVs, which is good, but if we could like put, the
You
conservation
know
land
who owns the
ends.
land? Is it Dudley owns the land, or the
It's-
DCLT?
It's Slater Woods,
Okay,
that's part of it, and the other one that comes in, off of Dudley Oxford Road.
Okay.
That butts the back of mine.
okay. I can talk to you about that, because if it's
Okay.
our property, we can certainly put up signs.
Yeah, because
Okay.
like I said, most of them are pretty good, but we've had a couple of them up in the back
Yeah,
where we've approached them and said that this is private property.
sure.
And a few of them we've got a little kickback from, but
Mm-hmm.
most of them say, okay, we'll just turn around and go back. But
Mm-hmm.
then it comes down to a problem if they start crossing over onto mine too. So, I mean, yes, it's good to have that, but you also have to look at the private landowner
Mm-hmm. absolutely.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes some people just get lost back there.
That happens.
Because we had one poor guy, he came through, he's like, where am I? What town am I in? I don't have a clue where I am.
It sounds like part of my life story.
But I felt bad for him, because his car was way up on Dudley Oxford Road, and he had just gone in for a little walk, he said, and I got all turned around, and I have no clue where I am.
Oh, do we have trail markers in there?
Yeah.
And he's, so he apparently didn't.
He
But
just got
I
lost.
don't know if
The,
you're going the right direction, though.
Yeah,
There's properties up there, multiple entities own those properties.
Yeah.
So we own some, the land trust owns some, the town owns some, the state owns some. So it depends on where you are, who owns it, so, but I
and
can talk to you.
New England Power has a part through
Yeah,
there
they
too.
have that whole thing going through there too.
Oh,
But
complicated.
that's a big conservation area. That's like 1,000 acres up there. And there's a trail, if you take the trail, it goes all the way from Dudley Oxford to Peter Pond. So it's at least 2 or 3 miles. So it's a good trail system.
I didn't know about it.
Yep.
The other thing we could talk about is a French River Greenway.
Yeah.
I know Ed has been very involved in that kind of work, but we are getting a river walk as part of the Stevens Mill project, which will create access to the French River just sort of north of West Main Street. And there have been various plans which show a greenway connecting all the way down, to the Chase Mill and then further into Perryville by the Connecticut line. So I'd like to see if we can't actually make that sort of a long-distance greenway happen and maybe promote kayaking and, riverfront access. I think
I
something
mean, if you
that
go to
a lot of
Putnam
people
and
like.
see what Putnam has.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
say
Yeah,
that.
we could-
Do something like Putnam,
Yeah.
with a little bandstand, because that way you're getting people coming in to hear whichever little band you have, and they have all kinds of events based around their river.
Right. Well, the marijuana facility in the Chase Mill has had concerts there, or had a concert for their grand opening. And correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but we do have something from them, I thought an indication that they were not only going to clean up that riverfront property in the back of their building, but also make that accessible at some point in the future. The idea was to connect the dots. You got the Stevens Linen property, you got the Chase Mill property, and then if you can get some of the others in between, start to work that and ideally even get across the river and get some things going on the Webster side of it.
Because all of that links down and into the rail trail.
Yeah.
And it really, there are a few spots now where we haven't made the connection.
Right.
And there are a couple of private property owners that we've wooed but not successfully. Is that the way it works? But over time, you get a little more, And there aren't too many links that are needed now to really open those things up.
Anything else to add to this? We've, I think, kind of started trickling into the other 2 questions I
Yeah,
have.
I think so.
Yep.
But that's fine, we'll add more, and if you're sort of exhausted those questions, we can move on, but just to ask the next one, what do you enjoy about Dudley Open Space and Recreation?
Well,
Anyone.
that nobody can find us. You have to work to get to this town.
Yeah.
And that works to our advantage sometimes.
Unfortunately, it's the Dudley people that don't know about some of these areas either. I hate hearing there's nothing to do in Dudley.
Right.
Because there are things to do in
And
Dudley.
those are the people who gotta get to join the committee.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And they will go, oh, I don't know. We need more signage, more pamphlets, more PR, more awareness kinds of things, so that they're not just flying from point A to B,
okay.
but that they can see it.
I wholeheartedly support that thought, but I think we also need to step our game up with regards to the new fund zone and the issue up in regards to the Center Road Cemetery. I think those are 2 obvious flaws that need to be addressed, and long since the bill is due. You're right, I like the historic features. Let me ask you a question. We have something called the Dudley Town Common, if you will, across from the Black Tavern. Is that Grange property owned by the church? That's
town
owned by the
property.
town property.
It's a
Okay.
town.
It took us a little bit of time and effort to sort the legal ramifications
Okay.
on who owned it when, and, cause it was a piece of property that moved kind of back and forth between the town and the church, and then the town again, and now it is all legally done. It is the town property. That's why I had them put that rock there that
Yeah.
says Town Common.
Okay.
And it's a small piece of land,
Right.
because actually, the road work around it is mostly the church or Nichols. But just the
Okay,
piece in the center is the town
the
common.
Apple Fest, which was this past Saturday,
Yeah.
when I was there, and those booths were put up, was that on Grange property or Town Common?
Town Common.
Town Common. Okay.
There were things over on the Grange property they had tables and
Mhm.
stuff over there, but that roadway, that loop in front of the church,
Okay, where those
really
artisans were, and
defines
the
the town
tractor,
common.
that was the, okay, all right.
you were on the town
Yeah.
common when you were in the squares area, you know, the paved area. We took those pavers from Stevens Mill
Okay.
and created that patio effect.
Right, yeah,
And a couple of monuments.
yeah.
That's the town common.
Original town fathers or families, if
Yep.
you will, yeah, no, it's.
Now, right now, Nichols
good.
does a nice job of keeping that up for the town.
Oh, they do?
Oh, they do.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you for that.
They're mowing from their end, they just come right over and blitz through it, which is a great help.
All right. Okay, good. I was wondering if, in some towns, the town common means a gazebo of some sort.
Oh, yeah, God help us.
It'd be a small gazebo.
It won't be as small.
It's always one of those small things, you can get about 4 people in it. and you
Yeah.
go, yeah, I'm in the gazebo.
Well, I think what they generally look to do is to have maybe a 4-piece band, if you could,
Yeah,
if you
we
could squeeze them in there or something.
Spread them out on,
Yeah.
on the green.
I don't, well, you might be competing with the Black Tavern because they have occasional concerts across the street, so I guess that's a hairy issue. We don't
We
wanna go
try to,
into.
up there, be all hanging out with one another and say, all right, we got this and you're doing that and we're gonna
Mhm,
put this together. And then the draw is from 3 or 4 organizations and that's helpful. This last weekend, it was Apple Festival on this
Mhm.
area and it was agricultural on part of the common and then
Black Tavern across the street.
craft fair on the tavern side and on the common.
And we did the same with the plant sale earlier
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
the spring. It was,
Yeah, you had representative up
Yep,
there this Saturday
absolutely.
too as well. Yeah. Was it Saturday or Sunday? I'm forgetting now.
It was Saturday.
Saturday.
We had a little rain,
Little?
but it wasn't the worst.
Oh,
No.
it wasn't
And,
bad.
and the vendors did okay, and,
yeah.
some people came and it was fun. You get whatever's sent your way.
Oh, yeah. Kids had fun decorating the pumpkins.
Yeah.
Ones that showed up, they had fun.
Yep, good.
And our seed giveaway, a lot of
And
people
the
took seeds.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because somebody said, seeds? And I said, okay, over there.
Yeah.
Across the road.
Yep.
Anything else we enjoy about open space and recreation in the town? Other events?
Well, open space wise, I think we're doing pretty well. Dudley does have a lot of open space, a lot of conservation area. The land trust has provided some hiking trails. The town has Oddlock Acres. We have the rail trail, which is phenomenal.
Mhm.
I think active recreation though that's where we're lacking, and that's the fun zone, and that's the town beach and places like that.
There's no other little parks in town, is there?
Not that I
No.
know of.
Those.
No.
No, the
so.
basketball court, well, the others are all either connected to the schools
Yeah.
or the
Or
Dudley
Nichols.
Soccer or Dudley Little League, and they're separate entities, and I'm sure have their own bylaws and
Yeah.
restrictions or provisions.
Yeah, and then the Boys and Girls Club too, they've got their
Right.
own thing up
Yeah.
there.
But, to your point, I think the municipal facilities are basically this and that.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The town lacks a community park.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It'd be nice to have 50 acres where you could have some ball fields and some, picnic areas, do cookouts, have fields for just pickup games and sports and that
Mhm.
kind of thing. Would be a nice gathering place.
Good point.
And there are a lot of scenic views too from Dudley.
Yeah.
A lot of the roads you go down, you don't expect it, and then all of a sudden it just opens up to this nice area where you can see for like a big distance, and it's got, especially now with the trees changing.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
nice. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful town.
Great postcards.
Mm-hmm. Because I didn't realize that when I was cutting down Tracy Road. I haven't been down there in a long time. And there's a spot when you get down there, because it's like all trees all around. And then all of a sudden it opens up and you can see off into the distance this nice big field and the trees lining it and everything. It's real pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you take people from out of town,
Mm-hmm.
they visit, and you say, oh, well, we'll go over to such and such, and they're like, wow, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not even thinking that, I'm on a destination. And I said, well, that's one of the nice things about living in a town that's still developing.
Yeah.
You know, hasn't been overkill.
The ponds in town, are they part of our purview?
So, yep, so we will talk about our water resources, forested lands, agricultural lands. You know, we'll talk about environmental issues as well, so that can all be sort of incorporated into our goals.
Okay, because I think there's a weed problem, significant weed problem. I mean, I think some of them are pretty close to becoming marshlands as opposed to ponds.
And some of the ponds, the people around the ponds have done weed control.
Right.
They've kicked in money to
Yeah,
have
well,
organizations, yeah.
Most of the ponds where you got a lot of
I live
residents.
across the street from a Merino Pond, and the Merino Pond Association, their dues and fundraisers, that's how they hire somebody and they clear the weeds out, and I know Hayden Pond's the same way.
Okay, and I was thinking of, what is, the name escapes me, the pond as you come to the,
Next to Tobin Farms.
You're right.
yes,
it's
right
They
there.
call it
yeah.
the
Mosquito
Pond.
Pond,
Confluence
but
of
it's just pure weeds.
awful.
Pretty much,
awful
yeah.
stuff,
Is
I
that-
That
don't
all
know.
feeds down into
Get stuck with
Marino
that.
too.
That's
so-
the
They all
question.
feed, yeah.
Good question. Whose responsibility would that be? Would that be the towns, or is that the property owners, or the butters, or? I don't know.
Yeah,
That was in one of the original conservation districts, but a lot of homes were built around the pond and sort of circumvented the intent of trying to keep that pristine.
yeah.
I don't know whether their septic systems maybe are contributing to the,
You know, I don't think the town takes notice. They do if the beavers clog the,
Right.
they go between the ponds
Culvert.
and then stop everything.
Mhm.
And they clean those out. And I don't know if that's the highway department, Jeff, you know, and his
Sure.
crew.
right.
But I don't know in terms of treating those ponds. I'm a Pierpont guy, so my dues to Pierpont Association go to treating our pond. And Dudley owns a piece of that, and the south end of Pierpont. So they're actually one of the
Hayden Pond Road,
Stakeholders.
stakeholders, there you go.
yeah. Some skin in the game.
Now, Dudley is still a member of the last Green Valley organization, isn't it? But I've not seen anything come through that organization that affects the town. Are you part of that at all, Ed, or? David,
No,
are
I
you
don't.
tied into that?
No, I think the land trust belongs to
Right,
that. We've done some work with them, like we've had fall hikes, when they have their hiking, they have a
October.
calendar
Yeah.
that they put out. But, yeah, we haven't had any like signage or anything like that we, the town is part of the last Green Valley, which it is.
Well, I think there might be something actually in the lobby.
Oh, really?
Michelle, where is it, in the
There is.
lobby?
Yeah?
You're walking past Steve Rogerson's, going into the senior center, it's right there on the wall.
Okay.
Okay, I know there is a sign somewhere down there.
Mm.
But it wouldn't ring a bell with most people.
Most people know.
They think of that as a Connecticut
Correct.
kind
Yeah.
of deal.
But they can offer a lot of educational opportunities for
They
folks.
do a very good job, yeah.
Oh, they do, yeah.
Yeah.
The wonderful brochures, and their Walktober events are always good, and we've even used them up at the tavern to come in and do programming back and forth. And they will pick up programs that we're doing in the town and put them in their brochures. So
Correct, yeah.
there's a nice interchange there. The other thing I want, before we leave a lot of this, the walking issue, the last few years, everybody wants to walk or bike or jog or something. And it's dangerous. We don't have, unless they go to the high school and
On the street,
walking
yeah.
that loop kind of thing is like, yeah, and then you're into that whole other issue again. Whose property are you on? And I don't know how we're not designed, the roads are not designed to handle traffic and walkers.
Yeah.
Now, Pierpont's wide enough that you can pretty much see what's coming, but a lot of other roads aren't, and even there, you know, you get especially kids racing to and from school, and gets a little,
Going down Oxford Ave, that you take your life into your
Oh,
hands
yeah,
if you try to
definitely.
walk
Yeah.
down there.
Right, yeah.
having pets that you leave off leash
Oh, yeah.
doesn't work on that road,
No.
trust me.
Planning board has been trying to push the issue with regards to sidewalks. We have sidewalks on Mason Road. And one of the things that kind of sweetened the pot for that was, there was a plan for a subdivision, you know, on Jesse Road,
Yeah.
which required sidewalks. So we hope to link those, if you will, and then expand at some point beyond that. They're also under consideration under the auspices of Safe Streets, Complete Streets, excuse me, misspoke, Complete Streets, other areas in town where we could, we recognize as having problems. One of them is the intersection, I think you mentioned Ramshorn Road and Dudley Oxford Road. I see those kids from cross-country running around
No,
that
it's
intersection.
scary, isn't it?
My God. They come as a group, and the visibility is terrible. You're entirely dependent on anybody coming into the intersection, paying attention to the stop signs, and somewhat responsible with regards to the speed limits.
True.
I don't think those are two things you necessarily count on, from what I've seen anyway. And we've been extremely lucky as a town and as a community that there hasn't been something really tragic happening there. That intersection is a disaster. And the other one that's being looked at is at Airport Road too,
Oh, yeah.
the golf course.
Yeah.
Traffic coming out of the golf course, there's no direction. People, as living near there, I've seen, as I've mentioned to Bill many times, any number of folks that say, well, I'm going to the golf course, I don't need the stop sign, I'm just going in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Forget the stop sign and just pull into the parking lot. Those things have been, what's happened essentially, I think, is you've got maybe a 19th century infrastructure,
Right.
and you've got a 21st century community of over 12,000 people now. And the two coming together can often be a painful experience, and literally a painful experience. So we've got some problems there, some issues to do. And even the sidewalk we have on West Main, I don't know if any of you have ever walked that.
Terrible.
There's a part of it that's no wider than this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody with one of those motorized wheelchairs or something,
Yeah,
I don't
couldn't
think,
make
you
it
could
through.
never get through that thing. I mean, we've got something that looks like a sidewalk, but it's a far cry from what anyone would consider a reasonable sidewalk. So we've got a long way to go with that. A long, long way to go.
Anything else? I know we touched on some of the water issues. Any issues with the forests? Any wildfire concerns? Or management of the forest? Anything like that? Or pests, invasive species?
Well, one thing that we keep trying to put out is about the longhorn beetle and the lanternfly. Those are two invasive species of moths that I know Worcester and that surrounding area has been having a lot of problems with the longhorn beetle, where it bores into the trees, into certain species of it, and it kills them, totally destroys. So we've been trying to get the word out. If you see the lanternfly or the longhorn beetle, to, alert MDR, and so that they would get somebody down immediately to try and stop them, from spreading any further, because once they get into an area, they'll totally destroy it. So we've been trying to get the word out about that on our website and stuff, so. And with a lot of the wooded area too, if a fire starts like way up inside the woods, it's very hard for the fire department to get to these locations. Because we had that happen a few years back. It was on the end of Peter Pond. And
Yeah, that's-
there's
access
no
there.
access. They had to come up through my property, and there's no fire hydrants naturally in the woods, so they had to keep going in with packs, and then when they thought they had it out, then it would spark up again, and they were there for a couple of days. And I'm sure with Dudley, there's a lot of wooded area like that, I'm sure they would have a hard time getting into.
What would the remedy be for that? Build fire roads? Fire roads?
Of course, a lot of it is on private property, too.
Right, yeah, it's complicated.
So,
It is
yeah,
complicated.
it is
You wanna keep the
complicated.
forests as forests, but
Right.
then you have that issue. But I don't know if there's a huge issue with forest fires and that, I haven't heard any,
There hasn't been
yeah.
recently.
This, with the drought that we've experienced, this probably would have been the year.
It would have been the year, yeah,
Yeah.
I would think so.
We talked last meeting about vernal pools, how there are some in town, but they haven't been certified.
Mhm.
Those would be important, to get certified so that they're protected against development. Does anybody know if there's any endangered species in town where habitat needs to be preserved?
I mean, there are certain places that, like parallel to Pierpont, if you go up Pierpont Estates and you take the first right,
Mhm,
that's a cart road
yeah.
or a trail.
It
we
goes
call
down
it.
to the detention
I
basin.
don't even want to call it a cart road.
Right.
It's an old trail. The developer tried many times to build on it, but you have to be always watching, always listening, and go, no. There's the potential there, I think, for a vernal pool, and it's just a nice old section that you don't go to very often, and it goes down as far as on the south end. I think it actually connects up with Mason Road area, and I remember as a youth. Maybe
Not that
10
long
years
ago.
ago.
10 years ago, okay.
Walking it and saying, oh, it's still here, it's good. But those are the kinds of things that we'd like to hold on to, and then get the word out. But a lot of this needs planning, and I will say it again, we're 10 years out from our 300th.
Yeah,
And this is exactly the kinds of stuff we need to be thinking about now and putting committees or groups or whatever in place to get these things done in time for that event. So
good point.
everybody at home is going, oh, here he goes with that.
No, it's,
Takes a long time to
takes-
get a lot of this
Yeah.
stuff
right.
done.
The town treasurer acquired a fairly large tract of land down by the Connecticut line for tax title purposes about 10, 15 years ago, and it's landlocked. The town has no access to it. So I think one activity would be to negotiate with landowners nearby to try to provide access into that town-owned land.
Yeah.
Or acquire other land nearby to increase the size of it and get access to it.
That might be your town park that you mentioned, right?
Possibly,
Possibly.
yeah.
Yeah, and the old Dye House will become a park, but it's not a huge area. That problem there is.
What is this
it's-
now?
Pardon?
What is this?
The Dye House.
Oh, the Dye
The old
House.
Stevens Dye House
Oh, okay.
on
Mill
High
Street.
Pond, and Low Pond. That's one of those pocket parks. But it'll be a really nice performance area, and that's on our 10-year look at, because it needs to be planned and landscaped and developed, and, those things don't happen overnight. But it could wind up looking like Webster's downtown Riverwalk,
Yeah.
Oh,
which took
right.
us a long time to get done,
Yeah,
and it's still going. But incrementally, you can just keep at it, and then people go, oh. And the Webster people don't even know it's there.
I know.
Yeah.
It's, frightening to me. I said, it's only a block from Main Street.
Yeah.
That's under the auspices of the Historical Commission?
No, that's now owned by the town of Webster.
No, I meant the property in Webster, the Dudley that you were talking about, the
The
Dye
dye house.
The Dye House,
Yeah.
it's, Dudley owns it,
Dudley owns the town of Dudley.
town of Dudley. Yeah,
So it's incumbent on the town to develop that.
correct. Someone has to step forward, so.
Is that the piece at the end of Udlock Place?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So it's available and we're thinking. Sometimes it takes a while, but
Mhm.
we're not ready to come forward.
So the town actually acquired land from Stevens
Yep.
when Stevens went defunct. Unfortunately, it also acquired 10 dams, which are, very expensive to maintain and repair. But there was some property that came with that is undeveloped and maybe, as Ed is saying, has other potential uses.
Yeah. It'll be lovely when it's done.
Good.
Hopefully, we all get to see it.
Cross our fingers.
Anything else we want to add to help build our goals? I think the only thing we really didn't touch on was any farmland. Is there any sort of issues with that, or?
Not right now that I know of.
Okay.
I know there's a lot of pieces that are under 61A and APR land in Dudley. But I haven't heard of any people having any issues with their property.
Are folks actively farming that APR land, or is it really just being mowed and kept in open?
Some are, like Walnut Lane Farm,
Right.
they're under APR and they actively farm it. And then there's a few others too that have it under APR, and they are actively farming it.
And that's part of the ag committee, is you're trying to promote that.
Yeah, we're trying to promote the protected land, the APR land, and also we're trying to promote farming, to try to get
Exactly,
people
right.
to start using their land. A lot of the old farms, it's the older generation, and the younger generation doesn't want anything to do with farming. So it just goes by the wayside, and then you end up with the fields, and they usually cut hay off of it, and some little thing, trees, forestry, so we're really trying to get that part of it going, to try to get younger people in, if these farms go up for sale, to get younger people to come in and buy the farms and start working them.
Right.
We've had a few people that have bought places, and they've tried starting up different little farms.
It's tough.
It
is tough.
is. It really is. And then COVID hit
Yeah.
with everything, and that kind of put an end to it. Like the people that had the farm on Ramswan Road that were selling cheese,
Yeah,
Right.
something happened and they closed it all down and moved away.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people love their cheese.
it was delicious, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was all right around the same time COVID hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that must have played a big part in it
You know-
too, with people going out to buy stuff and,
And the issues with those farmlands, if you don't keep it farmland, if you don't mow
it goes into
it
scrub.
goes- And it goes into a forest.
Mhm.
I mean, perfect example is the property the land trust owns on Healy Road. That was a dairy farm, and if you go up and walk the trails, it's woods.
Yeah.
And it only
It-
took about 40 years to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah, it doesn't take long.
No.
And it moves out of people's awareness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's a forest.
The
Yeah.
next generation
Yeah.
will look at you and say, what are you talking about? Where is that?
And the sad part is,
That's my
somebody
phone.
made that a farm. They cut all the woods down,
Yeah.
and they tilled it, and they
Yeah.
moved the rocks out of it to make the stone walls, and now it's just turned into forest. We took that land and made it into a trail system, which is absolutely gorgeous. So, if you ever get to go down there and walk the trails, it's really, really nice.
Yeah, I've done a bit of it, but not,
Yeah.
I don't think I've gotten it all. Good. We
Okay.
got some good things going.
We do.
Yep, we get a lot of notes here. I think this will be good enough to work into some goals. Like I said, it might be similar to what we had in our last plan. It might be a little bit different. So what I'm gonna do is take these notes, well, I guess before, is there any remaining comments that we wanna get down before we move on? And it's okay if not, I've got a couple of pages here of notes. So what I'm gonna do between now and our next meeting is try to organize these comments into like certain categories. So we'll probably have one on forest land and wildlife habitat, you know, active and passive recreation. I'll try to organize those, and then at our next meeting, we'll sort of read, you know, the comments under each of those categories and try to develop a better goal statement.
A mention was made of endangered species. I think you may have brought that up. I don't know if any of us here would know of that. Is there a resource or somebody that we could refer to in terms of the state level map, perhaps?
Yeah, the state
in terms of
usually has that
what in this
information.
region might be considered an endangered species? Because
Yep.
They
Because I
have,
know the heron were at one time, the blue heron.
there
But I
seem to
don't
be a
know if
number of
that-
them around right now.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I know we have some eagles.
Yeah.
Oh.
Got a lot of frogs and a lot of turtles. I know that. We got a bunch of snakes too.
Uh-huh, and salamanders.
Yeah.
Yeah, between now and our next meeting, I can look on the state's database and see what's listed for the town. I don't know how often they update those, but
Right.
I'll at least, you know,
Yeah.
whatever they have in the system, I'll write it down so we can discuss. Okay, so like I said, I'm gonna take all these notes and try to reorganize them into different groups. And then at our next meeting, we'll come up with more specific goals and objectives, you know, using those comments that we came up with. And anything else, you know, if you leave this meeting and you think of 10 other things that you wanted to.
And hopefully at the next meeting, we'll have a representative of the Recreation Committee joining
Yes.
us. It just seems that the two should somehow connect.
yeah, agreed.
For sure.
I mean, we can certainly provide a long-range plan for recreation improvements,
Yeah, definitely.
which they might find very helpful. So it'd be nice to have their input.
Right, for
into
sure,
that
yeah.
plan.
Have some of their buy-in. Okay, so the next thing that was on the agenda is the town boards and staff interviews. So we've got a lot of expertise and knowledge in this group, but we also want to get some buy-in from our other town boards and committees, even other stakeholders in town that might be, you know, private landowners who we could bring into this and try to get their buy-in with some open space and recreation action ideas as well. So what we'd like to do that is either set up some interviews with those different boards, or you know, even if it's specific people who've been in town for a long time might have a lot of sort of insight into what's occurred in the town and what hasn't been occurring lately. We can set up interviews with them. We can invite them to our meeting. We could attend their meetings, you know, hold a joint meeting, or we can sort of come up with a question sheet and give it to them, and sort of they can fill it out, you know, however they see best fit. I guess first, you sort of wanting to identify who we want to get that extra input from. You know, whether it be, you know, the different boards and organizations that you all represent, anybody else that we might have missed in that process, and then, you know, any private landowners. So maybe we'll want to reach out to the schools and get their input and try to build that into our plan as well. Or the Dudley Little League and Soccer League, you know, maybe you want to get some insight from them as well, and see what issues and trends they might be able to identify.
You were looking for suggestions?
Yes.
Okay, well, I think we start at the top with the Board of Selectmen. You mentioned the schools. I would include Nichols College, and that, what have they got, 200+ acres in town now or so? Major stakeholder, obviously, in the community. I'm almost thinking water and sewer.
Sure.
And that they've been digging up a lot of the town. And I know we've gone through this PFAS episode, and apparently there's a lead pipe issue or lead issue that they're looking into going forward. So that's going to certainly impact, well, the local towns and roads as far as, you know, getting into and getting around places and construction and things, whatever's required in that regard. We already got agriculture,
Mm-hmm.
conservation, planning, and historical commission. Who else is there?
Well, I'm thinking the
Board
Conservation
of Health?
Commission would be good.
Yeah.
Board of Health, yeah.
The chairman has been very active in conservation for a long time, knows every inch of this town, so he'd
Yeah.
be a good person to bring in. You know, I'm thinking maybe board members would be better rather than staff, just to get the resident perspective of,
Sure.
you know, having, you know, being a resident of town, what they see as important, and obviously they probably have their own ideas about what they would like to accomplish
Mhm.
while they're in office, so it'd be good to hear that perspective.
Okay, great.
And then we look at
So the
what,
water and sewer chairman, for example, I think
Right.
would be good.
the private sector, in terms of people there. Bill, I don't know what your thoughts are, but maybe we could invite someone from the Stevens Linen group. There's gonna be 156 apartments and 8 townhouses there. That's gonna be very impactful in terms of the town going forward. What their plans are with regards to the river walkway and how they're gonna take care of that, or hopefully maintain that. And, you know, that would be one of the first big pieces with regards to trying to create something in the way of a river walk.
Any other groups or people that we wanna get extra input from?
Well, I think maybe the Council on Aging, be nice to
Oh, good one,
understand what
yeah,
the senior
yeah.
needs are.
Yeah.
Are there any Little League or soccer organizations in town?
There's
The Dudley
Soc-
Little League.
Yeah, Little League, there's Dudley Soccer. There's the Boys and Girls Club.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some mention's been made of bicycles and bikes in town. There's a bike rodeo that
Board of Health
Board of
does.
Selectmen, well, town, Board of Health. Get confused pretty easily here. Okay, the Board of Health, we already got them on the docket, so, you know, the whole business of, you know, kids out on bikes and being careful, hopefully, doing so.
So that's a lot of people. I don't know whether we could
Yeah, so I guess
demand to talk
Gather
to
them
us.
all.
the next question is sort of how, I guess from that list, is there anybody that we would want to sit down and talk with either through an interview or inviting them to a meeting or attending one of their meetings? You know, is there anyone that we definitely want to take that route, or should we start off with sort of a question sheet that just kind of general, asking for some feedback? We can send it to those and then sort of follow up if we have any additional
Could we give them a choice? Some people might not feel comfortable filling out a letter, but might
Sure.
want to come,
Okay.
and others might not want to come, but would be happy to respond in writing.
Yeah, and I think that could be an introductory letter to them. Hey, we're here, we're doing this.
Mhm.
And we'd like your input. Oh, and you can do it
This way or
this
that
way,
way.
or we invite you to join us if you
Okay.
think that's
Right.
appropriate.
I think we might have it in mind, though, that if we were, for example, get a written response from someone, that we might want to follow that
Yeah.
up with something a little more intimate at some point, in terms of, you know, inviting them to a meeting so that we can get some maybe clarification, or let them expand that. So I think in terms of Nichols, I'd like to know what their plans are going forward. I know they have a plan in place right now for some of the property up there, but development of that campus and the area around it is very impactful in terms of the town.
Danny, would you want to put together a question list for folks? And as Ed suggested, we can send that out to them and they can fill it out, and if we can invite them to a meeting to discuss it if they're interested as well.
Sure. Yeah, I'll try to keep it general. I think, you know, some questions might not apply to all of the groups that we've listed. And I think, like you said, once they reach out, we might want to reach out again and sort of follow up and get some more feedback. But yes, so between now and our next meeting, I'll come up with that question list. We can review it at the next meeting.
Sure.
You know, change anything, add stuff, add questions, take them away.
So do we want these responses before the poll goes out to the town?
No, I think, we've sort of officially launched that. There haven't been any responses yet, so, I think we're gonna talk about that soon.
Okay.
But no, I think we can sort of do it sort of at the same time, or, even if we wait. I'm not sure when our next meeting will be, but I think it'll be fine to wait until then.
Okay.
We can send them the link to the survey as well.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a good idea to try to get them to answer that survey and get a better sense of what we're trying to determine with our survey. But okay, so I'll come up with a list. Like I said, we'll sort of workshop it at our next meeting. And then I usually recommend that somebody who's on the committee reaches out to these boards. I've tried to with other towns, and I'm sort of a third party. They don't really respond to me too much. But I'm happy to do it, but I think it'll probably be better received if someone on the committee reaches out, just because they might recognize your name more than me.
We can sort of split that up, I think.
Yeah.
We each have certain contacts, so we could pick the ones that we know might be better coming from somebody that they know,
For sure.
Agreed.
rather than,
Yeah.
just somebody from the town,
Don't
so.
know me, yeah. Okay, that's great. So I'll come up with that list, and then, like I said, we'll sort of workshop that and then get that out. Let's see. Add link to survey.
So is the survey live right now?
Yep, the survey's live.
Okay, so the QR code is working? Oh,
Yep, QR code works. I've printed off some paper copies and some flyers. I wasn't sure how many to print off, so I figured we'd start off with this. But before we get into that, any other questions about sort of our board and staff or other committee interviews? Okay. The next thing I did have on the agenda before we get into the survey is identification of unique geologic, scenic, and historic features. So one of the maps that we're going to produce for this open space plan is our unique and scenic features map. And so on that, we want to map out, like I said, any of these unique geologic, scenic, or historic features in the town that we want to identify and, show folks who live here or who are visiting. These are sort of our special areas or special features of the town. So the way we do that is we sort of ask you all, what those unique and geologic features are, and where they are and sort of why they're important. And these sort of can be anything. It can be the scenic roads. Maybe there's a really big rock in town that everybody likes and goes to a lot. It could be a historical building or statue. Really anything that you think of when you think of Dudley and you want to highlight that, we'll want to mark it down on our map.
Linda, do you have a list of farm stands in town?
Yeah, I created a brochure that we were handing out that we had a few of the farms
Okay.
listed, and I can give that to you too.
Sure.
so this doesn't have to be town property? It can be
No,
anything?
it can be anything.
Okay.
Like I said, big rock, really old tree, anything that you can think of.
Cannabis places.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
I mean, it could be.
Cannabis.
Oh, wow, yeah,
Yeah.
Revenue, think revenue.
yeah, revenue.
Scenic roads, scenic viewpoints, any unique geological features, really anything. It doesn't have to be town owned.
Okay.
And like I said, if it's just a viewpoint, it just could be a sort of a big stretch of area. Perhaps it'll be better if you guys want to take some time to think about that and think, what you want to have on that list. And then maybe at the next meeting, if you can come with, whatever that feature is, a location, whether it's a specific address or just like a general area of the town, that way we can sort of map it a little bit better. And then, a couple sentences either describing what it is or why it's important.
That would take hours and hours to
Oh, yeah.
that. But, got the right guy here for that.
But are you talking about like the town beach would be one, or?
Yes, it could be. We are gonna have a separate map that identifies all of the open space and recreational resources.
Okay.
So you don't need to list out all of those.
Okay.
But if it's something, like if you really want to highlight that as this is like a unique feature to the town.
I think the one that jumps out is the Black Tavern, by all means. It's the only thing on the National
I
Historic
mean,
Register.
Dudley Hill's easy because it's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
Range.
historic
church.
district.
That whole-
It's all sitting there.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, the Grange,
And
yeah.
then the various mills, and the town sections, you know, like a Jericho or something, that a lot of people wouldn't know, but if we can loosely define where those are, this is Berryville, and, you know, people will start to recognize them. And they were there for certain reasons, mills, for the most part, which are now gone, but even like in Perryville, the foundation of the mill is still there. It's invasive things all over it at the moment, but it's still there and it can be unearthed.
Yeah.
You know, there are lots of these little things that are hiding, and we need to get.
It's like
get at 'em.
West Dudley, which most people in town don't even know that's
Don't
part of
even know
Dudley.
Don't have to go there, there's no McDonald's.
It's just cut through to get to
Yeah,
Southbridge.
really.
And you have to go through Connecticut too. Then
Yeah,
it's
Right.
exactly.
really
They can
complicated.
pick up
The
your,
state.
you can pick
Yeah.
up your fireworks as you go through, right?
That's a good, we don't want that on the map, though, I
That's a
don't think.
highlight, right.
That freaks people out though, when you're trying to give them directions, cause I had a friend that was coming down from not in this area and they're like, I'm in Connecticut. It's like, yes, you have to pass through a small little corner to get back, but I'm in Connecticut.
Stamp it on your thing.
Yeah, really. Take out your passport.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So yeah, so, you know, take now, between now and the next meeting and think of some of
Okay.
those. I'll send out a reminder email just in case we forget.
Okay.
But like I said, you know, what the feature is, where it's located, you know, as best as you can describe that, if it's not a specific location, and then sort of what and why is it important?
If we had a huge map and you brought little cutouts, you know, tiny words, and we could just tape them on to the map, because if you do pins or something, they're all gonna
That's
fall
not a
off.
bad idea, actually.
Yeah, and then we're looking at it.
Because we know where these
saying-
places are.
And we know this is here and that's there, and,
We got a tables over there, we could lay a
Yeah.
map out on that easily, you know?
I like that idea.
if we got, I don't know what our biggest map is that we have floating around, but.
No zoning map in here, if you do zoning map, it's,
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
that's all the, that needs and bounds.
exactly.
It's, yeah.
I might be able to print off a big map too. Let me see if,
It's a good idea, because it helps to connect the dots, so to speak, too. It
Sure.
gives you
Sometimes
perception
you
of
can
things.
see, oh, they're near each other. and,
Right,
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that was there, so we could add this, to that, you know.
all right, so we'll dive more into that at the next meeting, but I did just want to sort of introduce it tonight, so you had a better idea of what we want to get from that. And then the last thing is just a survey update, so there's not really any updates. It is officially launched, I've adjusted all the questions, I added the ones that you had sent me.
Oh, good.
There aren't any responses, so if you guys want to take one more look at it, and
Is this just online, or is this the?
it's online, it's being hosted through SurveyMonkey. I did print off paper copies of the survey. I've got 20 copies here, I can print off more. But I figured we could stick these, you know, maybe some here at the town hall, some maybe at the library or the
Library,
senior
yeah.
center. And we can get some paper copies filled in that way. And then we'll have a place to collect them. I think we set a box maybe outside of the police station lobby.
You'll need a box in the library, or wherever you're putting these, I think you need a box for them to be collected at any of those locations,
Okay.
don't you? I mean, I don't think folks would necessarily fill it out in the library and then walk over to the police
Right.
Or just a
station.
drop-off.
Not gonna happen.
Not gonna
It's a
happen.
good hike, though.
Yeah, not a bad idea,
Scenic
but probably
trail.
not likely, yeah.
Linda, you were gonna bring some to your festival, right?
Yeah, we had, Danny gave me a big poster that I
Okay.
put up outside
Oh,
that
good.
people were looking at,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
Maybe they took a picture of the QR code and we'll fill it out
Maybe.
later, yeah. So we haven't had any responses yet, which is fine, we just launched it.
So if we went to the town website, you should be able to find this?
I don't know if it's on the town's website, so it's being hosted, through.
We have a new person who's the multimedia guruess of Dudley, isn't she, or whatever the title may be?
Facebook, Twitter, all those social media.
Yeah,
Just
TikTok
website.
and all that other stuff.
And I would try.
Well, seriously, they brought someone on board to do all these things.
What happened, Michelle?
I would try to get it on the website, if you could send it to me. I
Sure.
could send it
Okay.
Okay,
to TV,
But
okay.
Sure.
we do have an individual who's identified as having be the connection to things like Instagram,
Right.
Facebook, and
Right,
all of
she's
these
in
social
social
media
media.
things.
Okay.
So, and from what I've been led to believe, this is where people live right now. There's
Yes.
all this, you know,
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably get more, from my experience in other towns, you'll probably get more folks answering the survey online than with the paper copy, so having that social media, whether it's a Facebook page or Instagram or just on the town's website in general, that'll be a good place to start. I
Can
also.
you, get it in the Webster Times
Okay.
with a QR code maybe that people could
God, I don't do QR
could scan,
codes.
right?
Yeah, does anybody have a connection to the Webster Times?
I have a person who I send
Okay.
legal ads to.
Debbie LaPlaca?
Okay, I can send you a picture
Brandon-
of this,
Okay,
and,
Brendan
a
Barabee.
PDF of it. I'll send you
Right.
some wording, and then maybe if you wanna get that on the town's website and send it, see if they'll put it into the Webster Times. I'm not sure what their
And the
deadlines
shopper.
might be.
Yeah.
Yankee
And if
shopper.
you could
Who's
send me a
the-
JPEG of
Debbie
that, I could put it
LaPlaca?
on our,
Brendan
Yankee Express.
Barabee is the
Okay.
editor.
because we have two of them. And then we have a town site too.
Right, yeah. Oh,
Webster Times I go from Michaela Vicker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Send me one too, and I'll put it on the land trusts.
Okay, perfect.
yeah, right, there he is.
Trying here, we just got to get people to respond.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's far cry from putting something up on a notice board out in front of the town building and thinking that people are gonna see that.
Yeah.
I can see the code coming up and they're going, crashes.
But yeah, so not a whole lot of updates. There is,
Can you hand out the survey so we can take a look at it?
oh, sure.
Thank you.
So if we're gonna position some of these in the library, you don't have enough there for us to do that at this point, right?
So there are 20 copies, so if you wanna stick all 20 of them at the library, you can. Like I said, not a lot of folks, in my experience with other towns, have filled out the paper copies.
Really?
Yeah.
I think, the most I've gotten back are maybe like 10 or so. But I think, if there's or at the senior center, it might be a better spot to put the copies
Okay.
there.
It's just
Well,
downstairs.
they're the group most likely to do the hard copy. The code, if we have that at the library, people can just come.
Oh,
with
absolutely.
cameras and
Yeah.
People that know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, if you wanna take a
You put it
look,
on the TV to somehow get it
Yeah,
up there.
that's the updated flyer.
it's easy to,
It's,
Yeah, well,
it's just,
What is-
Land Trust just updated their signage at the trails, and we added a QR code, and it has the trail maps.
oh,
And
have you
we're-
updated?
Huh?
You are, or have?
Have.
Oh, you
I
have?
think they're all up by now.
I don't know, did you go out to Leovich?
I don't know if we did leave it, that's a good idea.
Hello?
Yeah,
Chuck, could we get this
Sorry.
on the town bulletin board out?
Because
in front of
nobody
the
called me,
building?
I would have taken the plastic down so you could put something.
I'll call Paul up and
Danny?
see,
Can you go through how we would
Tell Paul to
access the
work.
survey from our phone?
Yep.
Make 'em do something.
Okay, so, on the phone, so if you were to see this out and about in Dudley, there's a QR code on it, so if you have a QR code scanner on your phone, I think a lot of the newer phones, you just sort of open your camera and sort of point it at the code, and it should pop up.
Popped right up.
I don't know if I can show folks. It should just pop up a survey. Hold on.
Yeah, that's right.
That way.
Okay.
And then you just click
Survey
on that
Monkey?
link. Yep, Survey Monkey.
What do you do with it now?
And so now just click on
the
that
top,
link.
the top part.
The top link, no, that's some news break.
I got it already.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
The-
See,
the
look at
oldest
that.
guy in
Was
the
this
room.
thing? Oh, wait a minute, we're not sure of
Danny,
that.
would you help Richard?
Yeah, help Richard. Help Richard.
Okay, so that pops up, so you just click on that.
Oh, on that, it wasn't at the top, it was on the bottom.
And then
There
that
it
pops
is.
up the survey there.
Oh, that's almost too easy. Okay.
Yeah.
So some folks will do that.
Yeah.
I
And your
think,
food will be delivered in 20 minutes.
Oh, good. Extra pepperoni?
I think a lot of people are used to QR codes now because of COVID, you know, you go to
Right.
a restaurant, they all have QR codes.
It's awful. I
Yeah.
went one place, they said, well, we don't have menus
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, I know.
You gotta use the code. And I went, what?
They'll usually come up with a menu.
Yeah, they-
That's just,
find out.
before I came here, I was
Oh,
watching the
right.
news, and they had something for some organization, and the QR code was right on the TV.
Yeah.
So you could
Well,
just take a
for-
picture of that.
so I think, you know, if folks see this out, like I said, walking around Dudley, they might scan that QR code. If they see it online, they might, in the PDF of this flyer, the link is hyperlinked, so you should be able to click on it.
Okay.
And it'll pop up to that survey as well. So if you post that on your social media pages, if you have any like email listservs that you manage, you know, I recommend sending it out that way as well. I think you'll get a lot of hits that way. And then just sort of periodically, you know, reposting it if you're going to post it, or resending it by email, just so that it sort of pops up again. The more folks see it, the more likely they are to fill out that survey.
Doesn't the town have some facility where they can send out mass emails? Or is that just the reverse 911 thing?
Yeah, that's,
That's the, well, that's not an email, that's a,
That's a phone
Just a
call.
that's just
it does
alerts.
have a text.
Yeah.
You're correct, they do text.
They do a text.
Mhm.
I mean, we could blast it that way too.
No, that, yeah, that's reverse.
Okay. So on that OneDrive account, the sort of online cloud account for this project, I did stick an Excel sheet on there so that everybody will have access to edit that. So if you post it somewhere, if you email it to a group, you know, if you take the physical flyer and you post it, you know, at a grocery store or library, you know, wherever you might put it, just try to write that down so we can sort of keep track of our outreach. There's no sort of magic number to hit with our survey responses. The state more cares about what outreach you do and, you know, how much outreach you do to get folks to respond to the survey. So we want to make sure that we sort of keep track of that and can really explain all the outreach efforts that we've done. And I'll send that out in an email as well.
Will that have a link for the OneDrive?
Yep, yeah, it'll be linked to the OneDrive. Okay. Any questions
You
about
have
the survey?
completed by October 31. That's not really enough time, is it, to?
Yeah, it's probably not, and I think we're gonna extend that anyways. So I think it's fine to leave it in the paper copies of the survey. I'll update it on the online version
Okay,
of the survey.
okay.
And then if we print off more copies, you know, it'll be
Okay.
updated there.
Maybe it's good because it might motivate people to do
Right,
it sooner
exactly.
rather than postpone it, so.
I anticipate that we'll extend it past the
Okay, that
31st.
probably makes sense.
Probably until the end of November, depending on, you know, how much engagement we get in these first couple weeks.
Well, we're gonna be continuing this into the spring, so there's really no need to shut it off unless we're just not getting any more responses then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's no requirement, you know, for an end date. So if you want to keep it through, you know, the winter, that's fine.
Yeah, well, you get to the end of November and you're into the holiday season and people's focus starts to go in other directions, I think, as opposed to town survey.
Yep, for sure.
Sure.
Any other questions about the survey?
No.
Okay. That's all I had.
Well, if it's appropriate, I would make a motion that we adjourn then, or do we need to discuss the time for, date and
Oh,
time
yeah,
for the
next
next meeting?
Well, we're scheduled for the first Wednesday of the
Wednesday.
month.
Okay, are we clear on the meeting room calendar for that?
That's a second.
I will make sure it's reserved. So that would be
The second.
November 2nd.
Yeah.
Is that still good for folks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Awesome.
We go, we should be back by then.
Ooh.
Is there anything else anybody has?
All right, if
If
it's
not,
it's
Richard, you're up.
appropriate, I would move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay. We adjourn at 8:28.
Oh, we didn't even vote on that.
Sometimes, I thought you didn't have to.